David Lee Roth once said, "The party started the moment he walked into a room." For 11 years, he wasn't wrong. And that was exactly the problem. Here's something most people get backwards about Van Halen. The tension that eventually tore them apart wasn't really about ego, money, or even creative differences in the way we usually mean it. It was about something stranger and sadder. One of the most gifted frontmen in rock history built himself into a character so complete, so airtight, that the man underneath became almost unreachable, even to his bandmates. The whole thing began in Pasadena in 1974, born out of pure economics. Eddie and Alex Van Halen, classically trained immigrants from the Netherlands, had a band called Mammoth and a cash flow problem. They were renting their PA system from a local singer named Roth. The solution was obvious: hire Dave, kill the rental fee. Eddie would tell that story for decades with a grin, but looking back, there was more truth in the joke than anyone admitted at the time. Van Halen never fully stopped functioning like a band that had brought in its own frontman as a practical arrangement. What nobody disputes is what Roth brought to the table. By any traditional standard, he wasn't the most technically gifted vocalist. He knew it better than his critics did. But raw vocal power was never his instrument, the room was. He arrived with a fully formed theory of entertainment. The kicks, the energy, the sense that something extraordinary was about to happen simply because he'd shown up. Eddie provided the musical miracle. Roth gave people a reason to watch the stage. The results were immediate. A Warner Brothers deal followed quickly, and their 1978 debut landed like a thunderclap. Eddie's eruption alone sent guitarists across the world back to square one. That summer they opened for Black Sabbath, and, by most accounts, eclipsed the headliners night after night. Two extraordinary talents, one band, and for a while, a chemistry that made it all feel effortless. From 1978 to 1984, 6 albums in 7 years. On stage, they were untouchable. Off stage, 2 very different visions were quietly pulling in opposite directions. Roth was running the business of Van Halen, the image, the interviews, the videos. Meanwhile, Eddie was retreating further into the studio, hungry for creative territory that felt like his own. His famous solo on Michael Jackson's Beat It, unannounced, unpaid, done almost in secret, signaled something important. He no longer needed permission, and he'd stopped waiting for it. Then came Jump, in January 1984. A synthesizer-driven track Roth reportedly opposed. Their first and only #1 single. The bitter irony was hard to ignore. The biggest hit Van Halen ever recorded was the one their frontman didn't want made. By April 1985, Roth was out. Both men have offered their own version of how it happened, and interestingly, both versions contain truth. There was no clean villain. There were just 2 people who'd been writing different books inside the same cover for years, and finally stopped pretending otherwise. What followed was decades of parallel success, failed reunions, and a Cold War conducted mostly through chart positions. The 2007 reunion tour was a commercial triumph, though it came with its own compromises and tensions. And then on October 6, 2020, Eddie Van Halen passed away after a long battle with cancer. The war ended the only way it could. Roth's response, for once, was quiet. A photograph, a few words. The character stepped back, if only briefly. Maybe that said everything. The verdict? They were each other's greatest collaborator, and greatest limitation. Most bands never find that kind of chemistry at all. These 2 found it, built something extraordinary with it, and couldn't hold on to it. That's not a failure. That's just the oldest story in rock and roll. If this one hit differently, drop a comment and let us know which era defined Van Halen for you. And if you're new here, subscribing keeps stories like this one coming your way.